they're here to get a outcome for their business. When you start getting too myopic on the account, then you start to step away from that part on the business that's the more important part.
If we're hitting KPIs, how much work should we do? So let's say you've got a ROAS target or a total conversion target. We need 200 conversions a month or whatever. If you're doing 210, 220, we see you, Liam. We see the hat. Then do you put the same amount of effort in because you're hitting your target, or do you focus on another account? Or what decision do you make in this situation? It's like we're hitting the targets, move on to the next account, or do you do something different?
I think for me, I would focus on another account. However, the biggest question I've got is similar to what Mads mentioned there. If you haven't done much in the account, what do you put in your report? How would you justify your fees for just monitoring? I think that's my biggest question. I always feel like I need to do something, even if it's running, if it's running really well, you don't want to touch it. But what have you done this month? Well, I've just watched some graphs. You know what I mean? I think that's my biggest. Well, I'll always think, right, okay, I need to do something. And sometimes that's not the right thing to do.
Do you report on the actual physical work? Because we don't. We don't say, oh, we've created X number of ads and we've done this, that, and the other. We report on essentially performance to sort of gets us around the change log issue of, oh, how much work have you done?
Kind of a high level, but I've always kind of followed the format, as in, this is where we're at, this is what we've done, and this is what we're going to do next. That's kind of been the report format.
Yes.
So if there's nothing in that, this is what we've done section, the client's thinking, well, what are you doing for your money?
What about if, Ian, it's like, what do you see? Because it's like, you still do the checks, and even if you don't do any changes, we report, this is what we're seeing, it all looks good, this is what might come up, which might be a threat to the account, but otherwise all looks good. Like that's what we got in our weekly Google Ads notes docs, which was based off of that thing you had, Ed. So even if it's like no actions taken, it's just like, what are we seeing?
Yeah, and you don't have to say that there's no action taken, do you? Because I'm just thinking the way we word things, it's more a case of this is where we're at, this is what we're planning, this is where we're moving towards. Do you have to be very specific about what you're doing? I don't think you have to, unless you've done a piece of work that is worth talking about. I know.
Yeah, I've kind of reworded it, some of it with the report lately, and put significant changes. So we're testing a new landing page, for example.
That could be in performance as well. So significant change could be in performance as well. Even if you've literally done nothing, you can still report on that positive change. Doesn't mean you have to back it up with, and we did this, that, and the other to achieve it. And some people might think that's a bit grey, but at the end of the day, if you built the account and you manage it, it doesn't matter that you didn't touch it for 2 weeks. If it's performing well, then report the good news regardless of if it was because you clicked a button.
Right, okay. And then what you're doing next, and then nothing because it's performing well.
well,
see what I mean?
Right. This is the next bit. This is the proactive bit that I wanted to talk about. It's like, what can you put essentially like a menu and pick bits from a menu to give your client, say, next month we're going to focus on this, or for the next quarter, or push it a bit further ahead than a month. So I'm just looking at the chat because Michael's put, when hitting results, let the client know, then discuss the future. Yeah, I agree, Michael. So you can chime in, by the way, but Michael, do you outline what you've actually done as an agency, or do you just talk about results, where we're headed, as opposed to here's our change log?
I would never tell clients like what I don't have any clients who do that. And I just think it's a really bad way to guide the client, because they're here to get a outcome for their business. when you start getting too myopic on the account, then you start to step away from that part on the business that's the more important part, which is the actual goal that they want to achieve. So I think whenever I chat to clients, I'm like, how are things going on your side? It's always like, we talk about Google Ads for like 1 minute, and then the next 29 minutes is purely just about like what's happening in your business. What are you seeing on your side? Are there any gaps at the moment that we can use ads or other things to help assist with? Because usually the ads are the things that are going well. It's everything else in the business that's fucked, like the operations, the sales side, the fulfillment side. So when you talk about that more with them, they don't really focus on the ads. But that's just me. Everyone's got their different approach. I just think that if you get too caught up trying to do like what we did this month, like change logs, that's good because it shows you being proactive, but you've got to still bring it back to the bigger picture. Ultimately, like, we're doing this because we're trying to hit this result with you. We also recommend that this. We also had insight this month that of this thing, and now we're going to change this thing in the account. It's hard to kind of describe as like being too mechanical about this. It's a very, when I worked at agencies, it's just a very like a junior approach. When you start moving up, you start to realize like you need to be more consulting about the business and how Google Ads helps assist the business rather than just being like so caught up in the granularities of the account. If that makes sense.
Yes. That's how we approach it. It's like another sales call, isn't it? Because you essentially bat off the Google Ads stuff when you're talking about the business. Because if you move the conversation to how the quality of leads, type of leads coming in, or sales, or whatever, if it's e-commerce, any promotions, any new product lines, any best sellers that are changing, you got any stock issues coming, have you got any logistics problems that we need to be aware of, have you got any blah, 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 all of a sudden you've moved the conversation ahead and away from the work. And the reason I hate getting too into the weeds with the work, and I really don't think we describe what we do, it's very rare, is because it brings you down to an hourly resource, and you need to avoid that, where they're thinking, what am I getting for my money? As opposed to, are the results what I expected, what I was promised, where we need to be? There's the value for money. If you start talking about what you've done, it's like, oh shit, we pay you $4,000 a month and you've done about 10 hours work. That sounds far too expensive. So yeah, like Michael says, move the conversation to a more consulting thing about the business.